What's up, folks? So today I'm doing a new vlog style video. I did one last week. A couple people kind of wanted an update and were interested in me continuing it. If people aren't really interested, then I'm not going to do that many of them, but if there's continued interest, then I'm going to keep doing them. Also doing a vlog today because I got a new camera lens, so I'm just kind of wanting to check it out. It's 18 to 135, so it's kind of everything from close up to far away, just trying to kind of work with an all-in-one, see if it can do what I want. So I figured a vlog was just kind of a good way to do it. It's a little bit of everything. So today, got a couple errands to run. Need to go to Dick's Sporting Goods just because it's the closest sporting goods store to me. If you watched the vlog last week, you saw that I got this hang-on deer hunting stand. And so I need to get some legs for it, or a ladder for it, I guess. So I've got two of the ladder sections that you can hook together. But two of those sections is only about 8 feet. And I know a lot of people like really tall deer stands, like 25 feet. I think that's a little bit unnecessary for my purposes, but 8 feet is obviously way too short. So I need to get some more sections or some solution for a taller stand. I was shooting yesterday and I lost an arrow, so if I can find a deal on arrows, maybe I'll get some there as well. And I need to get some batteries for my game camera. So after we go to the store, I'm gonna go out actually to the property where I hunt, and I'm gonna scout it out a little bit more. I did a video kind of about my initial scouting of the property, and then I'm gonna go check on my cameras, so stay tuned. All right, headed to the store. You might be wondering, Adventure 1, why are you wearing white frame plastic sunglasses and a mesh tank top? You look like a 2005 frat boy. Well, yeah, I probably do. I've got a reasonable explanation though. I left my Oakleys at somebody's house yesterday, and as soon as I realized I forgot them, I was kicking myself. Actually, I left my Yeti cup there too, so don't have that with me either. And then while I was out yesterday morning, I was out in the sun, and I got a horribly bad farmer's tan, so I'm showing my skinny arms today to try to even out my farmer's tan a little bit. So some explanation to why I just look like a complete goofball today. Giant eagle on top of the leather sofa store. Doesn't that just make you want to buy a leather sofa? Alright, I am at Dick's Sporting Goods. Hopefully I can actually find what I need this time. Last time I was here, man, I completely struck out. So I think I'll at least be able to find some of it. Let's see. Alright, what's up, folks? So my trip to Dick's Sporting Goods was mostly successful. I went in there and I was gonna get some arrows if there was a deal, and it turns out they had 6 carbon arrows in like a 6-pack that were already fletched and had nocks and had inserts for the tips for 39 bucks. So that's a pretty good deal. I'll still have to glue in the inserts myself, but that's not hard at all. So 6 good carbon arrows that were 350 spline, which is what I shoot, that were already the right length and everything for 39 bucks is definitely a good deal. But I needed tips for them as well. So I just got some, you know, just generic field point bullet style tips. I think that pack was like $6.99, so not a special deal there, about what you'd expect to find. Also, when I was browsing around, they had a really good deal on a sleeping bag, a 30-degree bag. So I've got a good bag for warm weather. I think it's a 50-degree bag that kind of stays with my backpacking kit and is great for warm weather camping, but I don't know, needed something new for cold weather stuff. I have an old mummy bag, but it was kind of getting worn out and just a little bit tired. So it turns out in the middle of the summer is actually a good time to buy a cold weather sleeping bag, just because it's stuff that's just been sitting on the shelves. They need to bring in the new year models, stuff like that. And not a lot of people are looking for them, so generally the prices are pretty cheap. So got a new sleeping bag. Hopefully I'll get to test that out and post a video of that. Pretty much the only thing that I didn't find at Dick's Sporting Goods that was kind of on my list was the ladder sections for my tree stand. And there's lots of different types, so I've got the kind of snap together 4-foot sections from Sportsman's Guide. but there are some like types that unfold or types that clip on a little bit differently. So I was really open to finding whatever, but they didn't have any. They had a hang-on stand, but no ladder at all. So either I'm gonna have to come up with some kind of redneck ingenuity to pull something together and make it work. I'm gonna have to have my stand low and then raise it up when I get more ladder sections, or I'm just not gonna hang the stand today. I'm getting out there kind of late, so I'm not even sure if I'm gonna get to it anyway, but we'll just kind of see how time looks once I get out there. My priority is scouting a little bit more and hanging a camera and changing cards in my existing cameras. But kind of the reason I'm trying really hard to get out today, even though it's late, even though I don't have a whole bunch of time, is just because a couple days from now is September 1st, which is the opening of dove season. And that's pretty much when me and everybody else in Texas is gonna be off dove hunting. So this is a good last chance for me to check my cameras, just kind of check stuff for deer season, and get that going, and just kind of a last good checkpoint before I'm out dove hunting. So I hope to be getting some good footage of dove hunt stuff as well, but right now it's just kind of my last trip of scouting mode before all that happens. Alright folks, so I'm out at the hunting property now. First objective is just kind of go to one of my hunting spots that I think will be a pretty good morning hunting spot. Go out there, find the camera, go pull the card from the camera and replace it with a new one. So I never worry about taking the card out and replacing it. I just always have a spare card. SD cards are so cheap these days and most of them are very good. So I just bring a card with me, go out, take the one that's full, bring that back, and usually I keep one in one pocket, one in the other, so I can't possibly get them mixed up. My left pocket is the empty card outgoing, and my right pocket is the full card coming back. So let's take a look at some of the other gear I brought with me today. So let's start with just daily carry. Today I am carrying in the waistband the Walther PPS. Alright, so the PPS is definitely now a regular in my everyday carry rotation. Just a PPS, and this is the original model, not the M2. I'll probably do a whole review about why I prefer the original one. But it's got TFX Pro sights on there that just light up like nobody's business. And I'm carrying it in a sticky holster. I know this doesn't have a pocket clip or anything, but it's just incredibly comfortable. But Adventure One, I thought you were an advocate for open carry. Well, I am. There are some times when I prefer open carry and sometimes that I prefer concealed carry. For this gun and for wearing just like hiking pants like this, concealed carry is great. It's really comfortable. So that's what I'm bringing. Knife, I've got just a Boker Plus Auto. It's a decent quality blade. Aluminum handle, but most importantly, I'm not afraid to bring this one out in the field and actually get it dirty and put it to use. Now it's an auto and I'm left-handed, so a lot of you other lefties have probably encountered the same issue, that most autos, the button's in the complete wrong place, so you got to kind of blindly operate it with this finger, but it still works decently well for my purposes. So that's what I brought. And then flashlight. I know it's crazy bright out here, so why do I need a flashlight? Well, just in case. Might be out here for a while, might be out here after dark. This is just a Streamlight Stylus Pro. Just a really lightweight, easy to carry flashlight. You can see it's already, I've carried it enough that the finish is kind of wearing off. It's kind of getting that Boba Fett look where the anodization is kind of peeling off the aluminum. Then of course I've got my gloves here, just generic mechanics gloves. Always good when you're just walking through the woods so you're not leaving your scent on things, but also good to protect your hand. Alright folks, here is a great example of why you should wear gloves, whether it's tactical shooting or hunting or backpacking or just general adventuring. Right there, I don't know how well you can see it, how well the camera can focus up this close, but about a 1/2 inch cut right in the middle of the pad of my finger. And that was actually from yesterday. I was using a rifle with a Harris style bipod, and if you know, those bipods are spring loaded, which helps them deploy really well, but if your finger's in the wrong place when they close, they'll definitely squash it pretty good. So I pinched my finger in the bipod and it was bleeding pretty good, and yeah, this isn't something that's gonna like take me out of a fight or be debilitating at all, but it's one of those things that if I was wearing gloves like I usually do, I just slipped up yesterday, but if I was wearing gloves, that probably wouldn't have been an issue. It probably would have just pinched the glove and bruised my finger instead of slicing through my finger. Got my memory card for the camera. I'm testing out a new pack today. So this is actually the Oakley, I forget the name of it, but it's a 22-liter pack, so it's like a medium-sized day pack. But I like it because it's not super tactical looking. You don't look like Mossy Oak camo dude when you're wearing this thing in public. But it doesn't look overly technical either. Some of the Swiss Gear packs just kind of look a little bit techy. And I like that this is kind of a little bit more urban, but still very practical and versatile. Of course, I got lots of water, my camera monopod, and I'm all set up. So let's go. So I just pulled the card on the first camera, and there were only 4 pictures on there. 2 of them were night and just duds, so it could have been a bug or a bird or something set them off. And then 2 of the pictures were a deer, just a small doe that I've seen before. Not a small doe, a medium-sized doe, just walking by. So in 1 week, only 2 different deer pictures, and it was the same deer. So a little bit discouraging. I mean, it means I've got that deer pattern pretty well, but the traffic to this area right now is not quite what I thought it would be. So that's why you set up multiple spots, right? That's why this is maybe a good option in certain conditions, but not something that I should put all my hopes on. So just a couple pictures of that deer. So let's go ahead and roll on to the other side of the property and check out my other camera. If you're following my channel, you probably already know what poison ivy looks like. It's really pretty, but you don't want to touch any of that crap. That'll mess you up for quite a while. If you're like me, I'm very allergic to it, so anything that looks like that. So I was driving to go check my second camera, and I went by a spot that I noticed had been cut earlier in the season. And I was worried that the grass was just going to grow up through it, but the grass has grown only a little bit, so it still looks like a good kind of open meadow area. So I had just driven by it before, but now I'm actually going to go check it out. Let's go have a look. Alright, a couple things that I like about this spot. I haven't even gotten to where I wanted to look at yet, but I can tell the approach I'll be headed south. So a lot of times in the fall and winter there's a south wind here. So it means I'll be walking up into the wind. So the deer will be upwind of me, which is exactly where you want to be. Some of my other stands are okay for that, but they kind of play different angles of the wind. And as I'm walking around just looking at this stuff, I'm already seeing a whole bunch of tracks. Now they're not super fresh, a couple days old, but I am seeing tracks here, so that's always a good sign. So let's keep going and check it out. Well, it's looking good, folks. You see that? That's a turkey feather. And look right here, not 5 feet from it. Definitely where a small buck has been rubbing all up on this tree. Maybe a decent sized buck. I mean, that's a pretty aggressive rub. But right now is when they're coming out of velvet. Well, I've been seeing more and more tracks, including some big buck tracks and little fawn tracks too. Which usually when you see fawn tracks, that's a sign that there's a good community of does in the area, so that's usually a good thing to look for. But unfortunately, it seems like I'm not the only hunter who's discovered that this is a good area. If you look, where is it? Right here. Somebody's got a tree stand set up. So it kind of begs the classic question, do I try to hunt really close to somebody? Or do I keep moving down on the same property? Or do I find a completely different spot altogether? Generally, I would hate somebody hunting right on top of me, so I'm not going to set up right here, even though I know it's a good spot. So props to this dude for finding a good spot. And I don't really want to set up downwind of him either. I don't think I want deer, you know, in between me and him. I think that kind of hurts my odds, because they approach from one direction, they smell me. They approach from the other direction, they smell him. So I think I'm going to go and head back upwind and see if there's a good spot for a stand. But the fact that that one's there means this guy probably has already scouted this area pretty good, and he's probably going to be sitting right here opening morning. Well, I scouted that spot. I just kept walking upwind from where that stand was. I saw lots of spots with tons of tracks, but no place that was really good to set up a good tree stand that was within bow range and that wasn't just super out in the open. And since I know there's somebody else walking through here, if I was going to set up anywhere on this area at all, I'd want to be super discreet. So right now it looks like I'm going to hold off on this area, but definitely keep it in mind. I'm going to go check my other cameras, see if they're pulling up anything good. If all the other cameras are duds, then I might come back here and throw a camera down over here. But this is a good spot just to keep in mind for maybe mid-archery season. I could come in like through the other end of the road and stalk this area or something. So always good to be looking around and learning stuff and seeing where the other hunters are as well. Alright folks, well this next one's quite a hike in. I've been going for about 20 minutes or so, and we're almost there. So let's keep going and let's get to the camera. So there are a lot of places out here that have a lot of sign or have a lot of evidence of deer and look like very good places. But the spots, even if they have a ton of sign, the spots that are right off the road or easy to get to tend to not do so well. They may be good the very first weekend, but then after that, after tons of hunters have been tromping around in the woods, being all over these really obvious spots, the deer know to stay away from them. They get scared and they really don't come back to those areas. So the best way I found to overcome that is just simply to work harder, to trek deeper into the woods, be willing to get off the trail a little bit, get a little bit dirtier than everybody else, and you're going to have a little bit more exclusivity to your spot. So the people who really aren't scouting before season, aren't coming out here and looking around, unless they're really good, they probably don't have as good a chance. Alright, not so good news, folks. So I'm almost to the camera, and I was walking down the road and I just bumped a doe off in that thicket back there. She was bedded down and just took off really fast. I've had a picture of a doe a couple times on this camera right here, so it's probably the same deer. Never good to bump them, just because they get more spooked every time you do so. Doesn't necessarily disqualify an area, but just not a good thing either. So I'm gonna keep going, go ahead to the camera, and we'll see what's on the camera. But I was probably about 15 yards from her. Well folks, another big disappointment. I went to my second camera. It's in a spot where I got a really good picture of a buck last week. And I know there's a lot of deer at least coming through this property. Most of my pictures have been at night, so that makes it difficult. But I know there's a bunch of deer on here. But I went to check the camera, and the card had no files on it at all. Nothing. So either somebody found my camera, because this one's kind of in an obvious spot, not hidden too well. Either somebody found my camera and popped the card out, took the pictures, and then reformatted the card, or the rain got to the camera and shut it off, or maybe I didn't push it in all the way or something like that. So most likely it wasn't somebody taking it or somebody messing with it, because I feel like they would have just stolen the whole camera. I mean, if they're already walking up to the camera and fooling with it. probably would have just stolen the whole thing, not just wiped my pictures. So it was probably some moisture that got in there, or I've got the card in one of those little adapters. Maybe that didn't get pushed in all the way or something. So I just reset it all. So hopefully it'll work this time. It's about a 2-year-old camera. So, I mean, it's not brand new, but it's still in good shape. So hopefully this time it works. Alright, so camera 2 site was a complete bust. No pictures, looks like the card wasn't working at all, so just reset everything. Hopefully it's good. I'm on to camera 3 to check that out. So this spot's really interesting for 2 different reasons. Primarily because it's a little wedge, it's like a piece of pie shape, and it's public land right between 2 private properties. And most of the sign that I saw looked like deer were crossing through that public land and maybe eating on one of the private properties and maybe bedding on the other one. So it's an interesting layout. But then second to that, so my actual stand location, well, not stand, I don't really have a stand there yet, but the area I'm scouting and looking at where I put the camera is a little water hole. So being on a water hole, it might mean they have tons of pictures of just little birds and critters. I might get a lot of deer, I might get coyotes, I might get hogs, or I might get absolutely nothing, because it's rained a lot, so there's lots of water in other places. But everything needs to get water in some way or another, so this spot will just be interesting to see what I get. So the watering hole spot was a bit interesting. I did have a couple pictures of a doe coming by there. Looked like she came by there twice in the morning, and then I saw some other pictures that had some eyes kind of way off in the background. So I'm gonna zoom way in on that photo and see if I can find whatever that was. Maybe it was the same deer, but my camera was pointed a little bit downward. So I pretty much only got that doe when she walked right under it. So I went ahead and tilted it up so you could see more of the watering hole. The reason I didn't do this originally is you get so many reflections off the water, or the wind blowing the water, that you're gonna get a whole lot of false triggers, a lot of things setting off the camera, but it's just wind or ripples or something like that. So I went ahead and tilted it up just to see kind of more of that shoreline. So we'll see what I get the next time I check that camera, but at least there's a deer there. Not great, but you know, if it doesn't rain for a while, that may be a really good spot. But if we get a whole lot of rain, probably not even worth bothering with. But that's kind of what it is. So I'm off to the last spot that I found last time I was out here. I don't have a camera, I don't have anything. It's just a spot where I've hiked and I jumped a deer the last time I was here, and it looks like a decent spot. So I'm gonna go ahead and check it out and see if I can hang a camera there. All right, I just parked the truck at the new spot, so let's go check it out. I also just chugged a Gatorade. Are my lips really red? So this is the spot that I found last time that I thought was really interesting. So you can see that there's a trail behind me right now, and it's kind of a natural crossroads too, because it intersects with turn 90 degrees this trail back here. So I thought kind of where these 2 trails come together might be a really good spot. The woods are also really thick. There's a bunch of just like scrub oaks and cedars and a bunch of briars and brambles, and white-tailed deer really like that thick crap to hide in. And actually out behind me this way, it's kind of an open meadow, and there's an oil rig out there, so it's a little bit open, and there's an access road, so if I needed to haul a deer out or something, it's a good way to do that. I scouted this area a little bit last time I was here. I went down this road, and I really didn't see a lot of tracks, and I ran all the way into a private farm down there, so it might just be that all the noise and commotion from the farm and the farm animals and all that just doesn't really let the deer get comfortable because there's so much going on. But then I went and I scouted this trail back behind me this way, 90 degrees to that other one, and that's actually where I jumped that deer, and I saw quite a few tracks. So the crossroads might not be as good as just somewhere down this trail behind me. So I'm gonna go look and see if I see any deer or see any tracks or anything, and if it looks good, I'm gonna go ahead and set up a camera there. If not, I'll probably go back to one of those other places I was talking about earlier. Well, after scouting this spot, I saw more evidence that people have been here. I saw some footprints, I saw a beer can. I mean, the grass is even run down a little bit where vehicles have been on it. So I know there's deer here, there's sign of them, I've seen a deer here, but it might kind of fall into that category that I was talking about earlier, where it might be a good spot for deer, but people can access it so easily that the deer get run off pretty quickly. So I think I'm gonna go back to the other property where that other stand was and see if I can kind of follow that trail up a little bit more and find a good spot for a stand. Shotgun and black powder hunting only. Well, it looks like somebody didn't like the rules, but they proved that they most certainly have a shotgun. Now this is what I'm talking about. So often we picture deer in these just like open, majestic woods, but really this type of stuff is the stuff that they really like, because there's plenty of cover, plenty of food, lots of trails, and just they can move around and do whatever they want in there. Nobody can see them, and it's fairly open country, but there's thick trees too. So right here, it's a good looking spot. Isn't this just fascinating scenery? Awesome open country to be hiking in. So we got like a big open area behind me. And we got this like thick marshy creek bed back here too. So maybe a good spot for deer. For sure a cool spot to hike. There's definitely mosquitoes getting me though. But that's what happens in August. Hopefully not happening in November. Alright folks, well I got the last camera place in a spot that looks like it could be interesting. It's kind of at a place where two trails cross and there's some thick timber and even a creek bed kind of down a little past it. So it could be a decent spot, we'll see. So I'm about out of light. Oh look, two doves. Dove season is just days away. Can't wait for that. But we're about out of light right now, so I am headed back to the truck and then headed home, wrap this thing up. All right, well I am back at the truck. So it is time to call it a day because we are about out of light. I got about a little over an hour drive home, so I'm gonna hit the road. Until next time, stay safe, be free, and never stop seeking adventure.